Howdy folks, and welcome to FoundFlix. On this Indie Explained, we're looking at Cuckoo, where a 17-year-old girl is forced to move with her family to a resort where things are not what they seem. I really enjoyed Cuckoo. It has some especially unique and zany ideas that feel more akin to a B-movie, but treated rather seriously here. The feeling throughout is dark and mysterious, as Gretchen and her family move to a strange new resort in the Alps. It's when they meet the owner Kiig that things become even more unsettling. Dan Stevens is one of those kinds of actors that throws himself into every role. And his Kiig is menacing as well as a little bit off. I'd watch that dude read the phone book, not that we have those anymore. On the complete opposite end is Hunter Schafer's lost downbeat performance as Gretchen, and both of their performances really make the movie work. Then as she starts uncovering the true purpose of the lodge, things become crazier and crazier, barreling towards a surprisingly action-packed finale, leaving us with several questions about how things work as well as the creatures themselves. So let's check out Cuckoo, breaking down the story, including Kiig's master plan, just what the creatures are, and explaining the ending. Amongst the forest, we hear a symphony of birds squawking, along with muffled shouting. Within a house, we see shadows of a couple fighting in German. Things get more heated as the odd bird noises continue and rise towards the upper floor. Their teenage daughter is in bed convulsing violently. She rises up, her hair covering her face. The girl then steps out into the night, still fidgeting. The argument continues until there's a loud slam, followed by weak whimpering, sounding like the husband turned violent on his wife. A particular bird sound described as homo cuculadeid is heard, and the girl's ear perks up, and she sprints off into the woods. After discovering that she is gone, the father calls a man Kiig, who chides him for losing his adolescent early. This will complicate matters. A young one is on the way, but they are much harder to control without a nest around. The dad stares outside and slams the door closed. Well, that doesn't make too much sense at the moment, but over time, everything will become clear. We move on to meeting Gretchen along with the rest of her family, Dad Luis, stepmom Beth, and their daughter Alma. They are starting a new life together in the Bavarian Alps, and Gretchen appears none too pleased. The driver asks about the others. What's going on with her sister? Is she deaf or something? Gretchen corrects no, but she can't speak, calling it fucking annoying. They pull up at the resort Alpschlatten, and Kiig is waiting for them outside. They must already know each other based on the friendly interaction, including Luis showing off a correct pronunciation of his name, impressing Kiig. You've been practicing. They call over Gretchen to say hi, and Kiig groans her name, something already displeasing him about her. They have a present for him, an original sketch for the lodge that they all drew up together the night he acquired the land. Well, they were fundamental in building this whole thing, apparently. Kiig chuckles in appreciation. He's happy to display it in the new guest lodge. Clarifying they have definitely been here before, he points out that it was 8 years ago, nearly to the day, that the two lovebirds stumbled here. And it appears that they did have plans beyond architecture at play. Tellingly, he greets Alma, and she quickly responds in German, thanks to an app to everyone's delight. Gretchen goes to the restroom for some solace and listens to a message from a girl checking in on her. She mentions spending time together after a funeral, but understands. She reminds her, don't forget that her band needs her, and sends her over a new track, certain that her mom would have loved it. Well, now we understand why this is happening in the first place. Gretchen had been living with her mother until her death, and now has no choice but to reconnect with her father and his new family, which she certainly feels not quite a part of. She listens to the broody track, and the door creaks open, a shadow filling the wall. She clicks off the music, hearing them shuffling around. She tries to brush it off, and the intruder aggressively goes for the handle. She assumes it's Beth, but gets no response, only stomping to the stall next door. There's weird scratching and banging sounds, and she glances over the top of the wall. Beth enters, telling her to come along, they're going to the new house. Gretchen gets herself together and slinks by the other stall, not seeing any feet, until after she leaves, a pair of boots land on the ground. The family settle in at their quite luxurious new digs, and Gretchen scopes out the area. Alma gets her attention, citing something about the car, and Gretchen attempts to understand. She figures it out and unlocks the trunk, letting their pooch out. Seems weird the parents just totally forgot they had a dog in there. She also finds an amp as a present, along with a note from her dad, at least trying to make her feel welcome here. Their dog is immediately drawn into the forest, growling at the trees as more birds chirp. A Dr. Bonomo rolls up to the house, giving Gretchen a startle. She introduces herself as their neighbor and awkwardly cannot shake her hand. Sorry, they're full. Bonomo is curious who she is. The housekeeper? No, I'm the daughter. And Bonomo is confused. She hasn't heard of her. Gretchen is confused too. Why would she have heard of her? Kiig comes in hot, explaining that it was him that told her about the family, and asks for forgiveness. He makes things more confrontational, rubbing his hands weirdly over her shoulder. Yeah, don't touch me like that, Kiig. He reveals that Bonomo is also the head honcho of the local hospital and a chronic disease treatment facility that he is funding. Kiig smirks that she's from the US, and it's been decided that she's moving in with her father. Bonomo looks a bit shaken up, still putting on a forced smile. What a pleasant surprise. It's It's clear already that Koenig has some kind of a secret plan that he's up to here with the family, and they did not expect Gretchen to come along. She's an unwelcome thorn in their sides. Gretchen stuffs an envelope and butterfly knife under the mattress for safekeeping. She then makes a call to her and her mom's voicemail. She quickly grows emotional, admitting that it's weird, but it is good to hear her voice. She already thinks that coming here was a bad idea and misses their house. She says that she's short on money and is going to try and come home soon. She's interrupted by a knock at the door from Luis. He tries to comfort her. He knows that it's been tough, but he's happy that she's here. They're interrupted again by Koenig this time. He has a proposition for Gretchen. As there isn't much to do around here, why not come work at his resort? It's an easy enough job and will give her something to do while her parents help build the new resort. Louis keeps trying to speak for her, and Gretchen finally agrees herself to do it. Another employee, Beatrix, shows her the ropes of working the desk. They even play act someone renting a room with her cop boyfriend Eric. It's 45 euros a night, cash or credit. It does seem easy enough, and if there's any problems, just give the boss a ring. He lives up the street on the hill. Gretchen is baffled. He lives in one of the bungalows? Nope, he's got his very own villa. He bought the land and made the villas right in his front yard, both agreeing that's kind of strange. Another guest suddenly tosses her cookies, and her husband apologizes. Trixie whispers that happens from time to time. The husband takes her outside, his wife's still choking her head off. Koenig drops by to see how things are going and tells her that he'll be back to pick her up in 1 hour. She would rather take her bike back, but he will not allow it. It's far too dark on these country roads at night for that. There's some confusion, as Trixie thought that Gretchen was going to be splitting shifts with her. And well, Trixie has a car. Will I have a life too? She fires back. Koenig tries to defuse things. She always takes issues, giving him too much grief. Gretchen then stares out the window, spotting a guy with a white beard scoping out a map. Later, she's noodling on her base with headphones on. We also spot a medical bracelet hanging in the window. There's only a few hints at deeper issues regarding Gretchen, and we can assume that she took her mom's death hard and fell back into potentially some more destructive behaviors, understanding how she really is kind of forced to be here. Alma peeks in, and Gretchen starts really feeling the groove. There's more almost rhythmic screeching noises emanating from the woods, and Alma starts quivering. Her pulse quickens, and she starts convulsing. Just like the girl at the beginning, Gretchen notices her, annoyed at first, but can see that something is wrong. She removes her headphones, and the whole world goes all wobbly. Gretchen touches her shoulder and is suddenly teleported back a few seconds in time. She removes her headphones, and the moment repeats again. This time when going to touch her, Alma turns violent, scratching her face. Beth enters to complain about the loud music, and immediately goes to comfort Alma, not even really giving a hoot about Gretchen whatsoever. We also now understand that Alma is obviously some kind of inhuman creature, and has a strange ability through her voice to cause a short time loop. At least Trixie wants to know about the scratch. Gretchen moans that her father's daughter scratched her. She's all, you mean your sister? No, not my sister, she sneers. Trixie encourages her to try to be a good sis, and Gretchen tells her she had her chance. Turns out that Beth was initially pregnant with twins, but one didn't come to term, and fetus Alma ate her sister, aka vanishing twin syndrome. Gretchen actually thinks this is sort of badass, but still cannot stand the girl. Okay, Trixie grounds, another reason not to have kids. She's off for a date and leaves her to lock the place up at 10 p.m. sharp. Oh, and make sure not to tell Koenig. Gretchen can't even attempt to feign interest, muttering, while scrolling mindlessly on her phone. Sometime later, Gretchen is passed out at the desk, and a woman, Ed, pounds on the bell, shooting her awake. Gretchen appears, instantly smitten, staring at her until Ed mentions that she needs a room. Gretchen wonders, are you alone or with a partner? Oh, it's just because you get discounts and stuff if you're a couple or newlywed. Not that I'm asking if you're single, that's definitely not it. Ed says, no, for now it's just me, and they formally introduce each other. She can instantly feel that Gretchen doesn't belong here, and she's hopeful she won't be here long anyway. Gretchen hands over the keys, and Ed asks if she likes music. Well, sure. And in that case, Ed invites her to come to Paris, placing a hand on hers. Ooh, my. The interlude is ruined by that lady back and puking her guts out. She glugs down a drink and walks off almost zombified. Ed shouts after her, and they know that they need to check on her. Before Gretchen can, the phone rings, and it's Conan complaining that she hasn't locked the place up yet. He then realizes it's Gretchen and tells her to lock up immediately and stay right there. He's on his way. She brushes it off, reminding him that she has her bike, and hangs up. He immediately calls back, and she sets off into the halls after the woman. The wind picks up, along with birds squawking, and the front door is wide open. She steps out into the night, and the noises grow in intensity. She pulls out her butterfly knife, swinging it open. She decides ultimately not to wait for Koenig and sets off on her bike. Right after she leaves, car tires screech up in a hurry to the hotel. He's annoyed seeing both the doors still open, and yeah, that's kind of the one main thing you do when locking up. Koenig peers off into the darkness, and there's someone seen running through the trees unusually fast as well. Koenig speaks to himself in German. Where are you? Come here, he commands, and blows into a recorder. Some something is right on Gretchen's back, and she keeps looking down at her passing shadow. On another pass, she spots someone else, and on the next, they are reaching out for her. They let out a blood-curdling scream, seeing a lady wrapped in a shawl with glowing red eyes. Gretchen picks up the pace and bikes to the hospital. The front doors are locked, and she frantically calls on the intercom to let her in, the lady not far behind. The nurse does let Gretchen in, and she bonks her head on the glass, blood pooling down her forehead. She turns back, and the lady is still there, eyeing her. She gets her knife at the ready, and the police happen to show up. The nurse opens the door to let her in, and the lady has vanished. She goes through the story with Eric, and they are not believing that she was chased. No one was seen in the parking lot, and Eric concludes that she must have been the victim of a prank. Gretchen overhears her dad's voice, and the rest of the family also happen to be there. Gretchen rushes to them and learns that Alma had some kind of seizure. She tries to explain that she was attacked, but Beth draws Luis's attention back to them, leaving Gretchen feeling left out once more. Bonomo diagnoses it might be epilepsy. As for what's causing the seizures, there could be all sorts of factors. Has there been a stressful event or change in the family recently? Yeah, and Gretchen returns to her mom's voicemail once more. She calls this place fucked, and Alma is freaking out, and for some reason her dad is blaming her. Due to all this, she has decided to come home. She has found some money, seeing her snatching it from the till. That same man from earlier, Henry, strolls in and starts questioning her about the incident. She doesn't want to talk about it, and he shows off his badge. He just has a few questions about last night. She plays dumb, like, what do you mean, nothing happened? And he knows about her supposedly being chased by a woman. She still refuses to talk, and seeing Ed there, excuses that she has to go help a customer. He plays along for now, urging her to come see me later. Fine, she sighs. Ed hands over her key, saying that she's checking out. Oh, okay, Gretchen mumbles, disappointed. Ed points out that she didn't charge her. Does she need to? She smiles. No, you don't have to pay. Wink. Ed leans in and in a breathy whisper asks if she smokes. That's right, to some heavy petting and smoking outside. Ed tells her to come along. Gretchen definitely appearing smitten now. She grabs her jacket and some other stuff, seeing the sun is setting. Trixie shows up later for her shift and tidies up the place, then finding the register emptied. Speeding down the road, all Gretchen needs is to get to an airport so she can get home. Luckily for her, they have one of those in Paris. But their joyride is short-lived. Ed mentions that she did see the sick woman go into a pink bungalow known as the Lover's Nest. The warbling tone returns and the moment replays. Gretchen can sense something is off and sees that same lady right in the middle of the road, her throat pulsing. Gretchen shouts to watch out, and they careen off the road crashing. She comes to in the aftermath with blood streaming down her face and eyes aflutter. She peers up to the forest, hearing approaching growling. The lady shows up and throws Ed clear across the forest. Dang, she's strong. The lady screeches, clawing at her. Gretchen yells but is unable to move. She's saved by approaching car lights along with a smattering of gunshots. She wakes up again back in the hospital, along with her dad sleeping with her in the room. Hey, at least he kinda cares. A little bit. In the morning, Koenig is there and confronts her in a strange, somewhat subtle way. He wheels over to her, asking if she is in this moment putting her slashed skin back together yourself. If he was her, he'd stay home until her body got done growing back those cells. You wouldn't want to get hurt even more, as if stuck in a loop, he says, showing his hand. Can you do this, he asks, and she nods. Good, he concludes, hopeful that she won't interfere in his plans anymore. Luis has decided he's given her more than enough attention and complains that he's got work to do. She begs for him not to leave, and he dismisses. She'll be fine, there are people here all the time. She counters that no one is ever here, and what happens if that lady comes back? He loses his temper, shouting to stop it. He's had enough of this shit, and she is making things harder for Alma. Gretchen counters she's not making any of this up. It's not like she was high. He shuts this down. She was in fact high. They were seen smoking a doob. She stole money and ran away with a complete stranger. He knows that he can't force her to do anything anymore. She's almost 18, but now she's got no job, no allowance. If you want to run away, take your fucking bicycle. Gretchen breaks down in tears, and he coldly leaves her on her own. She places another call to her mom's voicemail and unloads. Things are really bad now. She just wants to come home. She wanders to a nearby room, seeing Ed there asking about her. And hey, well, she didn't die at least. Kind of surprising after getting launched clear across the freaking forest. Henry pays her a visit later and reveals that it was him that saved her life. And he saw that woman too. Gretchen perks up. You saw her? Everyone else thinks that she's crazy. He is desperate and needs her help to find the woman. She's wanted for murder. And he fully expects for her to come for Gretchen again, promising he can protect her. He sweetens the deal. If they do find her, he'll personally take her wherever she wants to go. While recovering at home, Gretchen overhears Beth talking to Bonomo about Alma's appreciation of music. According to the doctor, music can cause seizures, so Beth immediately takes it away. Gretchen screeches down, dismayed. It's just music! She signs to Alma, that's very cool, and the girl smiles back, while Mom sternly tells her it's not cool at all. Henry details about another couple on vacation that rented a cabin not far from here. The husband told police that he lost consciousness and and when he woke up, found a strange woman in his bedroom along with his unconscious wife, and the woman's voice had a hypnotic effect on the man. He chased her off into the woods, but she got away. When he returned to the cabin, his wife had choked on her own vomit. This makes Gretchen remember the ill woman from the hotel. She wasn't responding to anything and was choking and puking and stuff. She knows that they were staying in the Lover's Nest bungalow, so they set up a classic snake out of the nest to see if anything goes down. Trixie is glimpsed serving out champagne along with her beau. She gets his attention by dropping her towel, and he's put off, asking what she's doing here. What do you think? She counters, and he declares they cannot be here. Trixie gets upset, and he has to promise her to make it up to her. She caves and just needs to dry her hair before they can leave. Gretchen has fallen asleep due to boredom, and Henry takes her knife. He fiddles with it, shaking his head. Eric checks the windows and closes the blinds. Bird noises are heard coming through the AC unit, and he continues putting everything back in place. Outside, the birds are squawking like mad, and the warbling takes over. He's back to moments ago at the windows, leaving Eric baffled. It happens again and again, the short loop repeating itself. We see the lady behind him in the window's reflection, and the screech dwindles and fades away. Trixie stares out worried into the other room. The lady storms in, her face all distorted, and Trixie screams. Henry slinks around the perimeter, taking stuffing out of a pillow. He clocks Eric on the ground and continues on. He sees a woman with Trixie in a daze, and she weirdly boxes her ears. Trixie falls back and starts scratching all over her body before going completely limp. The lady hacks up some mucousy looking substance and implants it directly into her. Gretchen enters the room, and the lady unleashes her scream upon her. Henry runs in after and fires through his makeshift silencer, catching the pillow on fire. The lady leaps through the window, and he trails her into the woods, but quickly loses her. Gretchen cautiously approaches the still unmoving Trixie and spots a clear puddle of the goo on the ground. Henry returns, warning that she'll choke. Last time he was too late. He flips her on her side to keep her from dying. Gretchen awakes in the morning to a storm raging outside. Amongst a series of photos, she selects one in particular, stuffing it in her back pocket, nearly getting caught by Beth. She comes out to Koenig chatting with Alma about how owls have individual calls to communicate over long distances. Maybe they can have a secret call to understand each other as well. He pulls out the recorder, and Gretchen makes her appearance known. Koenig feigns his typical smarmy warmness, saying he's surprised to see you. Did we wake you? She tries to shoot straight with him about what happened last night, and he continues playing innocent. She demands to know why he brought them out here, and Beth points out, well, they are here to plan a new resort, but why do they have to live here? Luis growls for her to calm down right now. Koenig plays the recorder, and the trees start wavering. He states eerily, they're here because the family belongs here. Gretchen's all, yeah, like what the hell is that? That is a weird thing to say. Her dad barks for her to leave now, but Koenig decides to leave instead, still all friendly. He offers Gretchen, if there's anything bothering her, don't be afraid to talk to him. Oh! And he almost forgot a package came for her with her family name on it. Gretchen already knows what it means and gets upset. Her dad spills that it's her mom's stuff. She drags it over, growling, what's it doing here? He struggles to admit that he sold their old house. It was still my house, he defends, and puts some money in an account for her. Understandably furious, and now without a home to return to, she socks him in the face. She spills all the belongings out and kicks on the infamous message machine. Gretchen sobs as we replay each earlier message she left to her mom, crying until the recording cuts out. Then surprisingly, there's another message from Alma. She's calling on behalf of her sister Gretchen. She knows that she calls her mom whenever she feels bad, and she never answers. She can hear her calling from her room and is worried. So if her mom gets the message, please call Gretchen and tell her you love her. It would mean a lot and make her very happy. She even offers to come visit. She's always welcome here. Well, that makes it clear how much Alma means to Gretchen, despite her not even considering her sister. Kind of a dick, Gretchen. She tries to yoink some car keys, only to get caught by Koenig. He explains that everyone is gone. Alma had a strong seizure. He lays the blame on her for terrifying the girl and seizes on the chance to get rid of her for good. He instructs her to write a farewell note. He can give her some cash at his place and drive her back to the station. She decides to go along with the plan, jotting a note that she's never coming back. In his car, she notices a picture of a bird, a common cuckoo. He can't help but gush over the magnificent creature. It may be common, but its nature is quite remarkable. A nature that modern man destroyed by disregard. Some species need help to survive and reproduce, and I'm a preservationist, you know. Now his mask is starting to slip, and we are starting to get this whole operation is under his command. Any of that nice guy persona drops completely at his villa, when she comes to a shocking sight. Eric has got Henry taken captive, and Koenig blames him. He was trespassing with an illegal firearm. Gretchen can't believe he's doing this. He is a cop after all. Not so fast. Thanks to Eric, he has access to police files. Lando here was discharged when investigating a case that he was personally involved with. He tasks Eric to get into the station and leaves to fetch Gretchen's money. funny. She and Henry exchange glances, but he stays silent, no doubt thanks to the gun on his neck. She's brought into a vast room with an empty swimming pool along with a bedroom set at the bottom. Knowing something is off, she turns to run and he sprays her in the face with something that causes her to collapse instantly. And he locks her inside. We can already guess what he intends to do here, going outside to play the recorder and bringing a creature right to Gretchen. She tries to escape and he comes over a speaker informing her that she's a liability. He cannot let her out. She screams, "What did you spray me with?" With pheromones, of course. He says he's giving her a big opportunity here. You see, the adolescents need to be trained. She should consider herself lucky. Meanwhile, Alma's parents are with her at the hospital, and she's given a sedative to help sleep through the night. Koenig continues filling in more details about the creatures. They are unable to speak like humans, but when trained, their song can be dizzyingly persuasive. A girl screeches, and as the door opens up, the effect becomes more pronounced. Gretchen cracks off a piece of the bed frame, and another loop begins. The girl from the opening climbs down in the pool unaffected by the time shenanigans. She vanishes and then appears behind her, bonking her ears just like Trixie, which incapacitates her. The girl lifts her by the head and hisses. Yet when they make eye contact, the girl looks confused as she hasn't been trained as of yet. Still some humanity left in there. Gretchen takes advantage of this and gently touches her face. Koenig grumbles to stay concentrated, and playing his recorder brings her back under his spell. She continues warbling, and Gretchen starts scratching aggressively all over her body. The girl retrieves some cuckoo slime, and Koenig with earphones is in the room. He plays the recorder again, instructing her that's enough for today. He coos for her to come over, and she tries her screeching on him to no effect thanks to the headphones blocking the noise. He bestows the girl a wig and tells Gretchen to hurry up. The girl is going to need to have her own mating ground soon. She also needs to not let what happened to Lando's wife happen again, now really confirming that Henry's wife's death was due to an implanting session gone awry. As for the girl's cuckoo mother, the other blonde lady, he did get nervous as she left the facility and he didn't have anyone to replace her. He continues speaking to Gretchen, calling it good fortune she's witnessed 3 laying ceremonies as of now. He refers to it as a sacred process designed to keep these ancient creatures alive and well. Wow, so Koenig revealed a lot in just a few details. We can't help but wonder where these cuckoo-esque creatures came from, and now know that they are in fact ancient creatures, only kept alive thanks to his and presumably many others' efforts over many years. All this brings Koenig back to the important matter at hand. Eric now needs to fulfill his duties with Beatrix after their laying ceremony. It takes a human plus the cuckoo creature to create the superpowered hybrid creature. There's distant gunshots heard, and he sends some other dude to check it out. Gretchen starts vomiting, and Koenig appears that he's going to help her, but rather stuffs a pillow over her face instead, intending to finally snuff her out. Henry saves her ass again and pops off a shot on Koenig. He then descends into the pool and approaches the girl, putting her down. I mean, I get where he's coming from. At the hospital, Beth is out of nowhere not feeling well and freaking losing it. They give her some meds as well to calm her down, assuring her everything is fine. Must have been some serious stuff, as Beth soon appears glazed over, completely gone. You cannot trust these guys. Henry has pieced together that they impregnate the woman at the resort, as seen a few times, and of course including Alma many years ago as well. Who knows how many they've been able to successfully impregnate. Henry's head is hanging low in defeat, and she tentatively reaches for her knife, but instead places her hand on his, showing some kind of compassion for a change, and he's surprised by the gesture. Gretchen opens up to him about the voicemail thing. After her mom died, she accidentally called her house, and hearing her voice on the machine kind of helped, so she kept calling. Maybe he can do that too. A cuckoo clock on the wall goes off, and Henry can't help but laugh hysterically, and seems to be kind of losing it, or maybe already did a long time ago. Hard to say, we don't really know what this guy's deal. He shows off the bird and reveals what the cuckoo is most famous for. It lays its eggs in the nest of other bird species' nests, then let those birds raise its offspring. Sounds exactly like the creatures. They really are cuckoos in a weird way. Gretchen starts puking her guts out, and he tries to avoid a mess to no avail. Henry grabs that photo from her back pocket featuring Louise, Beth, and Koenig, marked as their honeymoon in the valley. We already know Alma is one of the hybrid creatures, but now Henry realizes that himself, which is not good considering how he put the other girl down without a second thought. She calls Louise to check in, and he says Beth isn't doing so well. He keeps rambling on and not really listening to her. Gretchen is about to broach the big subject, but Henry stops her. You know we can't trust them. They watch across the way as they leave the hospital, Gretchen wondering what is wrong with Beth. Once they pull away, Henry sneaks inside the hospital. Bonomo pours over Alma's case, referring to her as Homo cuckoolade hybrid, literally a human cuckoo hybrid. She does resemble her surrogate mother Beth, and notes that she became more distressed when in close proximity with the birth mother, the blonde lady, hence why she was freaking out earlier. Bonomo describes the creature's behavior as similar to animal brood parasites, meaning they leave the host to raise their child and never return, a true parasitic relationship. Conversely, these cuckoo hybrids eventually return to claim their young. They've also learned that contact with the creature's biological mother speeds up the process of their offspring's physical development along with their abilities significantly. This seems like what Koenig has really been trying to cultivate the whole time, training and bringing these creatures to their most dangerous and full potential. But why? I don't know. And they're about to initiate the first close encounter between Alma and her birth Cuckoo mom. Sure, let's see what happens. Science! Gretchen finds Alma's room and opens the doors to Henry joining her side. He's figured out some more stuff, but is a few steps behind as usual. The thing is, brood parasites don't impregnate, they implant eggs. So like with his wife, after she was implanted with the egg, he was supposed to fertilize it, and just like her father on his honeymoon, he did fertilize the egg, resulting in Alma's birth. Well then what do they do with him? Release him into the wild, Henry assumes. His mission is clear when the mother shows up. I'm ending this experiment once and for all. But what about her sister? And he's steadfast. That thing isn't her sister. Koenig swoops into the doctor's area and asks Bonomo about a secret recording that she has. She doesn't respond, but he assumes she still has it and blows them both away. He's not going to let his precious experiment come to an end no matter what. Gotta tie up all those loose ends. He enters Alma's room and Gretchen tries to go at him through the glass. Henry holds her back, attempting to knock her out. The pair clearly not on the same page anymore. She pulls out her knife and slashes his face. They continue tussling and she gets him again, digging the knife in deep, allowing her to escape. She gets to her sis, signing it's time to go. She tells her to stay behind her and the screaming is back. Alma's ear raises and she starts shaking. Her bio mom is here. Gretchen dons some headphones and the lady shuffles in. She takes the knife, pointing it at Alma, and the lady ceases advancing. They keep backing slowly down the hall and Alma notices the blade in the reflection. She shoves Gretchen away and she falls to the floor, losing her muffs. The lady screams and Alma scampers off. Gretchen follows after along with a woman. She ducks behind some shelves, noticing Henry there nearby. The woman whimpers and comes to a stop, unleashing her signature screech. Gretchen covers her ears and spots a Walkman on a nearby copy machine. She turns it on to lure the woman away and continues evading her until the lady spots her through the shelves and both rise. Henry, seeing what's happening, puts his weight into a bookcase, creating a domino of tumbling shelves. Alma runs out of the room with Henry behind her. She rounds a corner and runs right into Koenig. He smirks, which turns sour upon seeing Henry. They both open fire and Alma crawls away. Gretchen is trapped under the rubble and the woman yowls. She plugs her ears and spots her knife nearby. The boys continue their full-on gun battle as the lady, still screeching, leaps over the top of the shelves. Gretchen waits for the perfect moment and jabs her with the knife. The lady groans and cries, bleeding out all over the place, and Gretchen removes her wig. She peers around, seeing Alma in another room. He shoots at her and Henry fires back. Gretchen yells to him the mom is dead and she wants to know why her. Koenig is annoyed, seething, it's not about you, you little brat. It's nature focusing on reproduction and breeding. His process ensures that each new generation is bred more powerful than the last. He starts to state his intentions with Alma, and she throws out the wig, proving she's not lying. Koenig angrily fires, then Henry too, and both run out of bullets. As they reload, Gretchen is given her chance to slink by. She holds out her hand to Alma, and the girl isn't interested. She painfully removes her jacket and signs that she's sorry. I would never hurt you. Koenig tells the girl to keep her distance, and Gretchen stresses they need to leave now. Running out of time, she fibs that her mom got her message. This causes her to drop her arms, innocently asking if she's coming to visit. Gretchen breaks into tears. No, she can't, but she says thank you. She reaches out once more and takes Alma in her arms emotionally. She says that she needs her help and shouts for Henry, reminding him of his promise to protect her. He still stands by it, and she has to ask, did he promise his wife that too? Henry goes into a rage, growling yes through tears. She wheels out a cart with Alma on top, her on one side as Koenig won't shoot the girl, and as he promised, Henry can't shoot Gretchen. They both follow along as the cart wheels through the room, each trying to find a clean shot. Henry can't believe what she's doing. Alma is one of them. She knows what she'll become. Gretchen disagrees, and Koenig pleads his case. He needs Alma to keep the creatures from extinction. Hundreds of years of research right down the drain. Alma covers Gretchen's ears, her throat starting to pulse rapidly. Koenig and Henry are both incapacitated by the sound. Gretchen woozily gets Alma out of the room. As she leaves, the effects wear off and the guys draw their weapons. It's a standoff, and both fire at the same time, presumably ending them both. Outside, surprisingly, Ed is there, still attached to her IV, and Gretchen falls unconscious. Ed rounds them up, and they leave the scene in a car. I doubt it's hers after the crash. Alma is asleep, and Gretchen tenderly strokes her hair, and see her ears still twitching. The trio are certainly setting off into an uncertain world, and it will be interesting to see what becomes of Alma. We know that Koenig was sort of training the adolescents to make them more powerful. What if she was taught compassion instead? Hard to say. The real point of how things turn out is the 180 Gretchen takes in her feelings towards her sister. Initially, she loathed her, even refusing to call her her sister. Then obviously in the the end, she does everything she can to save her life and get her away from Koenig's experiments. It's also interesting as we really don't have any idea what happens to her dad and Beth. They're escorted from the hospital and that's it. While they weren't complicit in the plan, they weren't able to really protect Alma, hence why it probably is best for her to be with her sis and away from the resort at the very least. Speaking of the resort, it's kind of insane to really understand what Koenig is up to here, luring unsuspecting couples to the Alps to implant them with an ancient creature's egg, and then also training their children to be under his control, as well as more powerful. You do wonder to what end. So he could have an army of half Cuckoo soldiers under his recorder's command? He also has to have a serious bankroll to build the lodge and a new one and everything. Interestingly, Koenig mentions hundreds of years of research, so some kind of group has been watching, studying, and then breeding these hybrid Cuckoo creatures for hundreds of years. Although a lot of time and effort is put into this program, it doesn't seem to be too successful at the moment. Near the end, he is particularly desperate to keep Alma, saying that she's the only one left, as the other two hybrids, the Scarf Lady and the younger girl, were both killed. So currently, Alma is really all they have left, according to him, and hopefully Gretchen intervening will avoid her evolving into a murderous, rampaging monster. However, there is one more potential hybrid out there in the end, a little thing left dangling for you. Beatrix was implanted, but not yet impregnated. Eric was last instructed by Koenig to fulfill his duties, and since he wasn't there at the end, maybe he did. And already there is another potential Cuckoo brewing out there. That brings us to the conclusion of this Ending Explained for Cuckoo, but why not click over here and check out more monsters? Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching FoundFlix. See you next time.